Okay, this video is to show you how to use Excel to calculate the log of 500 factorial. So you can use this anytime you want to calculate the log of a factorial. So the property we're using here is the fact that the log of a product is the sum of the logs. And so the log of 500 factorial is something that's going to throw an error by your calculator because the calculator is programmed to try to evaluate what's in the parentheses first, and 500 factorial is too big for the calculator to deal with. So rather than calculate the log of 500 factorial, we use the property of logarithms that says that the log of a product is the sum of the logs, which means that the log of 500 factorial is really just log of 500 plus log of 499 plus log of 498 plus log of 497 and so on. That's still too much to do. It's 500 different log calculations that we'd have to do and add up, but that's why we have computers. So on your computer, if you open a blank Excel spreadsheet, we're going to column A, just put the numbers 1 through 500, and there are some different options for doing that, but here's how I'll do it. I'll put 1 into cell A1, and then in the cell below it, I'm going to write a recursive relationship between this cell and the one before. So I'm going to say equal, that's how I start a formula in Excel, always with an equal sign, and I'm going to say add 1 plus, to the previous cell, to cell A1. So you can see the way it writes it as a cell reference. It's saying add 1 to the cell contents of A1. The reason for doing it that way is that Excel has the property that if we click on a cell that has a formula in it, and we grab the lower right-hand corner and drag down, then it repeats the formula in all the cells below. And most significantly, the cell references in Excel are relative. So the fact that the first time I did it, I referred to the cell that was one above. Now the formula that was copied is always just referring to the cell that was one above. So that means that, for example, if I look at the cell A6, it says 1 plus A5. In other words, 1 plus the cell above. So it has changed my original 1 plus A1 to adjust to be relative to the cell that I'm on. So in other words, it does exactly what we want to do. So it's very handy for recurrence relations because by its nature, this relative referencing of cells is behaving very much like our recurrence relations. So I can get the A column to be all the numbers from 1 to 500 by just dragging this thing down 500 rows. But before I do that, let's make the B column just coincide with the log of the A column. So in other words, I'll have the first cell will be the log of 1, the second will be the log of 2, and so on. So again, in Excel, a formula starts with an equal sign, and I'll say log, and you can see that your options here. We want the base 10 log because we're talking about how many digits this has written as a base 10 number. So the base 10 log is the one I want. And then I'm just going to say the log of A1. So log 10 of A1. So that's the log of 1. Log of 1 is 0. That's always true. So that's not very interesting. But again, if I copy this formula down, it's going to change the cell references relatively. So for example, if I look at cell B6, it's taking the log of A6. So if I fill both of these things down to 500 rows, then in the B column, I will have the log of 1, the log of 2, the log of 3, the log of 4, and so on, all the way down to the log of 500. And so my final answer is just going to be the sum of all of those entries. So to fill these down, I'm going to highlight both of them, both A6 and B6, and I'm going to grab the bottom right corner again, and I'm going to drag down. And so both of these formulas are going to be propagated down correctly, and I'm going to have this go all the way down to row 500. So now in the A column, I have the numbers from 1 to 500. In the B column, I have the logs of those numbers. And I can just double check here. Notice that in cell B500, I have the log of whatever's in cell A500. And I can see right next to it that the number in cell A500 is 500. Notice how these numbers don't get very big. So this is not a hard thing for technology to calculate. The thing that's a pain here is be having to do it 500 times. So what I need then in my final answer is just the sum of these numbers in the B column. Excel has this nice feature that if you were to highlight a bunch of cells, then down at the bottom of your Excel window, probably it's going to show you the sum down there. That is something that that someone could turn off on your computer. So just in case you don't see it, we can actually get that with a formula as well. So I'll have an equal sign as my way of telling Excel this is a formula. The formula is just sum, and I'll tell it to sum everything from B1 to B500. So that'll be my sum of all the numbers that I calculated in column B. So you can see that agrees with what the bottom of my screen was showing in Excel, 1134.09. So that is that number right there. So point at it, that is the log of 500 factorial. So even though I can't calculate 500 factorial, I can tell you what the log of 500 factorial is. It's 1134.09. That means that the number of digits that this number has would be the floor of that number plus 1. So in this case, a 500 factorial has 1,134.